And we're live.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We have another fun episode for you guys again today. We are back talking waivers. Week 5 is just in the wraps. Hopefully, you guys had a very fantastic week 5, and hopefully, you guys won your matchups and didn't suffer too many of the injuries that we're going to talk about today. And of course, let me introduce Coach John. As always, Coach John, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much, Coach Steve. Just another beautiful Monday. If you hear any mooing or honking in the background, my dog got a new toy, and he is deciding to sit right outside my door with that said toy. So apologize if you hear any squeaking. Everything's good. Cowie's just hanging out with a new toy. So I'm excited to talk football. Big week.
Yeah, me too. All right. So like I said, guys, we were talking talking waivers today. Before we get into that, we do have some fantasy news to cover, and we'll probably be mentioning a lot of this. We don't know still. There's still a lot of unknowns, a lot of these injuries, but hopefully we'll find out sooner than later. So start off at the top here. James Conner, Arizona Cardinals running back, knee injury. He left that game in the middle of I think around the third or fourth quarter of the game this past week here. No word on whether or not he is going to be available or how severe this injury is. Khalil Herbert, we have already found out that he has a high injured sprain. It's a high ankle sprain, and he's going to probably at least miss a few games this season, at least the next 2 games, and we'll see how that goes. Tank Dell concussion, we'll see if he's going to be available for Sunday. Anthony Richardson, Johnny, we were just talking about him. AC joint, likely out for a month, at least week 6 he'll be out. So we'll see. I think they're still determining whether or not to put him on the IR. Travis Kelce, a lower ankle sprain, which was very scary to see in those afternoon games. He did not practice today, and they play on Thursday night, so we could be without Travis Kelce this week. Demario Douglas and Juju Smith-Schuster both suffered head injuries. Not know the severity of those head injuries, but it is something to monitor for this Patriots wide receiver core. Daniel Jones left with a neck injury somewhere in the late third quarter of the Dolphins game. His status is unknown at this time. Wan'Dale Robinson concussion likely puts his week 6 in doubt. Justin Jefferson, obviously this is a big one here. Hamstring injury. I still haven't heard anything about his hamstring injury. And then this one came in this afternoon, guys. Devon Achane suffered a knee injury during the Giants game. Again, they're doing testing still on that. So a lot of big injuries here. John, I don't know if you want to just mention anything. I mean, I think we'll talk about a lot about this if we know the severity about it later. So
yeah, I have a feeling we'll talk about a lot of this stuff on Thursday's show as practice reports come out, injury reports come out. We'll know more. Obviously stinks to see a laundry list of injuries on a Monday morning, but kind of where we're at in the season. So yeah, we'll find out more information on severity. A lot of these injuries come Thursday, but the one I do think is pretty severe is Anthony Richardson. I think he is going to miss a decent amount of time. So that one stinks. So if you're in any level of a super flex, anything like that, if Gardner Minshew is out there, he is absolutely a must grab and stash and all that. So
agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, keep your eyes on this. Again, we'll maybe on Twitter later if I find out more. I'll post something on Twitter, well or not. Like what the injury does for the people behind them. But we're going to talk a lot about some backups of a lot of these injured players, just in case that you should probably go pick up here in week 2. So this week we don't got any keeper cut. So we're going to get straight into the waiver wires this week here. So last week waiver wires. I don't know. I think it was just me last week. Yeah, it looks like it was just me on last week.
Yeah.
Quarterback CJ Stroud, Joshua Dobbs didn't have the best games overall, but I do still expect them to kind of step up at some point throughout the season. Obviously, CJ Stroud was somebody obviously I was really high on for the rest of the season. Joshua Dobbs is more of like a short-term player. RBs, Jalen McLaughlin obviously had a really nice game for us in fantasy. So if you were able to pick him up and you had to start him, you did pretty well. Chuba Hubbard, again, didn't do too much, but I think we're going to talk about him again today. Tajay Spears, He ended up doing pretty well this past week here. And if you picked up Jeff Wilson in advance, you might have got yourself a nice, cheap, easy play potentially. And then my last one was really just add some stud backups. I mean, at this point, there wasn't too many people last week you could add for fantasy. Wide receivers, Jameson Williams obviously didn't really do much in his first game back. Jaden Reed, we'll find out tonight. Marvin Mims, really nothing crazy with him. Curtis Samuel had a really good week, so if you picked him up and started him on Thursday night, did pretty well. Michael Wilson, not the best game from him, but hopefully he still has better games to come. Luke Musgrave, I believe he got her play tonight. And Jonnu Smith, if you picked up Jonnu Smith and started him and you took that trust level, he gives you pretty solid. So not too bad. In the chat, hey guys, happy Monday. What are your thoughts on Jalen McLaughlin as a flex player going forward? So John, how do you feel about McLaughlin moving forward?
I think he's definitely earned himself some touches. He's earned himself a role in this going forward. We'll see what's going on with Javonte Williams, but I think even with Javonte Williams healthy, he clearly gives something to this backfield that him and P. Ryan don't, which is speed and agility. And so I think he's kind of going to find, it might not be as productive, might not be as much volume as he's getting right now, but yeah, he should see work going forward. I don't know flex again. It all depends on who else you got, but at this point, I trust him more than I would like a Gus Edwards. So I like him. He's a decent play.
Yeah, I don't really know about flex just yet when it comes to McLaughlin. P. Ryan had a lot of work in that late game there, especially in the fourth quarter. I figured, in the fourth quarter of a game you're behind, why are you not trying to get your young player some more reps to see what he's able to do? So it was definitely discouraging that he did well, but he didn't seem a lot of touches, which I guess is a good and bad thing. He's right now for me is somebody who I would consider as an RB bye week replacement. And if you're low at RB and you need an RB to stick in, because we all know the running back position is very thin, that you could probably give him as an RB2 for the week and hope for the best with him. But I don't know if I trust him as a week-to-week flex yet. If Javonte misses more time, if he went to go on the IR or something for the next month, I would trust him much more as a flex option if that was the case. But I don't think Javonte is going on the pump, the IR or anything like that at this time. So McLaughlin doesn't, for me, really have that flex value just yet. But his name is definitely rising. And if you got him last week, I think you got a player that might be a valuable asset at some point during the season. So
I agree.
All right, so let's get into the quarterbacks. We'll start off with quarterbacks here, guys, for the day. It's going to be fun here. So quarterback situation here. John, I'll let you go because you have Gardner Minshew as your top guy, so I'll let you talk about Minshew.
Yep, I think Gardner is, he will always be kind of one of the elite backups in the NFL. He clearly can control an offense and can contribute. It didn't look like Indianapolis really missed that much of a beat when he jumped in. So I think he's good. I think he's any sort of super flex. You absolutely can grab him, should play him. And then in terms of the pieces around him, your Josh Downs, your Michael Pittmans, I don't think it's that big of a downgrade going from Anthony Richardson to Gardner Minshew. So, Anthony Richardson, obviously fantasy wise, is a totally different player than Gardner is. But in terms of real NFL quarterback, I think Gardner's, capable of running that offense very, very well. So pick him up if he's out there. You can absolutely grab him, and he's a fine replacement.
Yeah, no, I like Minshew. I think Minshew actually makes this pass attack for the Colts a lot better than what Richardson does, because Richardson's value comes on his own. He doesn't really overly bring value to the whole offense, and I think Gardner Minshew will bring value to the whole offense while not having as much value on his own, which is good for us in fantasy if you have a lot of Colts players. Again, he's a good pickup kind of guy. I have him as my second quarterback to pick up for this week here. My first quarterback is Sam Howell. Really tough the first half of that Thursday night football game, but he looked much better in that second half here. And that's the Howell that I really liked coming into the season here. He threw for almost like 300 yards in just a half. It really shows what kind of player he is, that be able to spread the ball around and find players to get open. He made a lot of fantastic throws in that game there. Again, granted, it was the Bears, but I still would like to pick him up moving forward here. I just feel like long-term rest of the season, based on what's left out there on the waivers, that he makes the most sense for me. John, you have Baker on yours.
I do. I think this is kind of just this is also just a PSA. This is a post buy, see if someone dropped them. If they didn't need him, they couldn't hang on to him through the bye week. Single quarterback. He's a good, he's past his bye week now. So if you have someone who's got a bye week coming up, he could be a good bye week filler for you. I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield is, again, just a solid quarterback. Will give you, might not have the major spike games because he's not really going to run much, but can still fill in, be productive in your fantasy lineup, get you your 15, 20 points that you need. You hope maybe he has a couple multi-touchdown game and hits Mike Evans on some big ones. But I think Baker's fine, similar level. And this is, again, just see, some people might not have hung on to him through the bye week. Some people might not have hung on to a ton of players through the bye week. So just check and see if he's out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that will go through a lot of the positions is that you should look at to see which bye week players. And you could actually do this tonight if you have like a bench spot or two. You could pick up the bye week players now. But also, I mean, just take a look because some of those guys aren't showing at the moment as like, some people look at like, oh, who had the best games this week? Well, some of those players didn't play. So keep that in mind there. You might see Dak Prescott get dropped in a lot of leagues. So keep that in mind that he might be someone that gets dropped. He has the Chargers this week coming up. So that could be a little bit of a better outing for him. Matthew Stafford, Jimmy G are other options that you could also consider at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Over to the RBs here. And then this one, a little bit more better than what we had in the prior weeks here. Yep. John, you had the top guy on this list here. So I'll let you go once again here. Tajay Spears, go for it.
So Tajay Spears, we've talked about him. Basically, he was the belle of the ball at the preseason. PFF ratings loved him. Looked explosive, looked great. But everyone was under the assumption it's still Derrick Henry's backfield. He'll get minimal role. Well, he is, over the course of 4 or 5 weeks now, carved himself out a decent amount of work. So he's getting what I would consider, flex-worthy amount of volume at this point. You're going to get 6, 7, 8 carries. You're going to get 3, 4 targets. And he's hyper productive with them. Again, he had his first touchdown. I think that is a sort of a monkey off a rookie's back, where now it's, I get the game. I'm got in the end zone. I'm can focus on a million other things that it takes to be a professional running back. And so I think this is big. This is a big step for him. And this offense in general just needs a spark. They need something going on because they just look malaise everywhere else. And Tajay clearly is the only one that really is showing any sort of major explosion right now. And I think Vrabel's a good coach, and a smart coach would take advantage of that. And so I think in the coming weeks, if he gets a little bit more work, and this team continues to stink and maybe they trade pieces away, who knows? But Tajay is one of those guys where at some point you just got to bet on talent, and he showed that he's got some real NFL talent.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, he's my top guy too. Again, I'm not overly throwing money at him, but he's definitely a good bench piece to add to your team that I think will be able to help you out during the bye weeks that are coming up over the next month and a half. He seems to be getting more and more work, over 50% of the offensive snaps. So, yeah, I mean, I like what he's doing, and I like to see him continue to move forward. So that's kind of why he's in my top spot there. Now, my number 2 was Chuba Hubbard, and so was John's here. So I'll bring up the Chuba Hubbard here. So Chuba Hubbard, the last 2 weeks now, has overtaken Miles Sanders in terms of snaps. Now, Miles Sanders does not look good, whether or not he's injured and banged up still and not playing at 100%. And Chuba Hubbard has been taking advantage of that, but not too much. He hasn't produced overly a lot at least last 2 weeks, but he is seeing more and more work over Miles Sanders. And that's something to take notice, is that potentially, even though they paid Miles Sanders a lot of money, Chuba Hubbard has been the more efficient player, especially on the passing downs situations here, that I think we could be seeing him be the main guy, or at least be a little bit more of a 1A, 1B scenario with Miles Sanders in the offense here. And this offense will continue to get better as these young players develop over the season here. So Chuba Hubbard will have more opportunities, especially in the passing game, whether it's scoring. So he's definitely worth a pickup. He's a good bench player to pick up and put on your team now.
Mm-hmm.
John, you had him too, so right?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm kind of treating him right now kind of how I treated early season Kenneth Gainwell, where it's like it's probably a 1B, probably, but until Miles Sanders really takes the job away, kind of like Swift didn't really take the job away right away, and I don't know. You can still use him. But there is always going to be that chance that Miles Sanders just kind of gets healthy and figures it out. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. So I'm willing to keep rolling with Chuba until it happens.
Right. Now, definitely. Now your third guy is Kendre Miller. So if you want to go and break that down.
So Kendre Miller is, again, I think that at this point of the season, it's hard to find guys in the waiver wire with any level of like staying power. And Kendre, of course, he wants it. No, you're not coming in with that. And of course, Kendre Miller is finally had this breakout game where, okay, we saw the usage of both running backs and being effective. So I think Kendre Miller is, he's not going to be this. I think he was a little bit more of a home run threat, top speed kind of guy than I thought. I think he is a little bit more of a, strong between the tackles. We're still very good running back, but as long as Kamara is there, that's kind of their big play home run guy. But if you're going to give me, what do you have, 16 touches this week? If you give me 15 touches, say, on a weekly basis going forward, that's very valuable in fantasy. So I think that's probably where he's going to live. And then, if anything happens, say he does do that big breakout game or anything does happen to Alvin Kamara, and then that 1A, 1B flips, that would be huge. But again, I'm not betting on that. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. But worst case, you at least have a pretty solid 1B scenario in a Saints offense that I can't seem to do much through the air right now. So if they have to lean on the run game until Derek Carr figures his mishaps out, they're gonna, because they can win games with that defense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I had him on my list last week here. I don't have him on my list this week, just strictly because I feel like he is more of a backup than he is an actual starter. 1B situation at the moment. Like a lot of his catches or carries happened in the fourth quarter of games. Mm-hmm. Hey, Kyle, what's going on? But he did see passing down work in around like the second quarter. He did see a bunch of his targets happen in the second quarter. So there's some promise there. But for me, there's some of the guys I have above my list. I feel like they have a bigger opportunity to see more playing time early on than what Kendre Miller. If it's a closer game, they might rely on Alvin Kamara. That's my only thing. But he has tremendous upside rest of the season here. It's definitely worth a pickup. My third guy is Deontay Foreman. And let me just talk about Roschon Johnson. He's not on this list because he's just over the 40% mark. So if you guys were wondering, where's Roschon? Why isn't he being talked about? I'm having other podcasts talk about him. We talk about players under 40%. He is just over the 40%. So if Roschon's out there, he suffered a concussion too over the Thursday. He should be fine hopefully by Sunday.
Still go get him. Yeah.
He's the top guy to pick up over everyone. That's how I feel about him personally, in a personal opinion. He should be their top guy picked up. But Deontay Foreman is definitely a must add right now because we know this backfield for the Bears likes to use 2 RBs at times. And if Deontay Foreman, Roschon Johnson can't play for any reason because of the concussion, Deontay Foreman jumps into a giant role because they don't have any other running backs. Travis Homer's hurt. They used their fullback on Thursday Night Football because they had no one else. So Deontay Foreman could find himself a bigger role for the next month, and we saw him pretty productive. So he needs to be added to your team right now here. I probably should have had him at 2, to be honest, but I have him sitting at 3. Definitely a must-add scenario for him right now. John, you have Jeff Wilson sitting at your 4 here. Tell us why.
So they just activated his 21-day window to rejoin the team off of IR. I think that, he's, if it's not this week, it's soon. They wouldn't open up that window if they don't think he's coming back, within the 21 days, obviously. So we just heard this Achane news that there's an injury there. Mostert is not the, poster boy of health. I think that there could be a late season surge with Jeff Wilson, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we've seen what a running back can do in that backfield. Mostert was the running back 1 for the first 4 weeks. Achane blew up for 2 weeks in a row. Like it's insane what a running back can do in that. And so even if I have to hold on to Jeff Wilson for the next week or 2 until he gets up to speed, gets active, gets ready, I'm willing to hold that on my bench because I'm not trusting Achane to stay healthy all 17. I'm not trusting Mostert to stay healthy all 17. And so if by week 8, 9, all of a sudden Jeff Wilson has himself the starting role and you're fighting for a playoff spot and you get to put that guy in your lineup. It feels really good. I feel like that could be a major piece, later on in the season that I'm willing to hold on to right now. And maybe he gets activated. Maybe Achan's knee injury is serious and he gets activated at practice on Wednesday. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, great. Now I got a piece I can put in now. So I think Jeff Wilson is a major sort of upside play for me, bigger than a lot of these other guys on this list. So I like Jeff Wilson a lot. I think you might be, the reason why he's lower on here is you might be able to wait but also
maybe not now.
No risk. Yeah, this Achan news. I
6
think
hours
now,
ago you might have been able to do.
Yeah, that. I think this Achan news changes everything. But no risk, no reward. So I think if you have to make a play at Jeff Wilson, it's right now, and I think it's a very smart bet.
Yeah, I mean, he's also has injury concerns of his own over his career. So if you wanted to wait, like John just said, and wait until afterwards and then pick him up, I mean, he may be there, he may not, but I think the risk reward factor is you could do it, you could not, and it won't really overall affect your fantasy day. So, and he's my number 5 guy. So, but my number 4 here is, I'm going to say his name completely wrong. I can't wait to do this here. Amari DiMercado. He is the rookie running back for the Arizona Cardinals. He's their backup currently. He might have an opportunity to start in week 6. James Conner's knee injury, we don't know the severity of that just yet. Keontae Ingram is also dealing with his own neck injury, which is definitely a scary thing to do. And Domesticado, I'm saying his name wrong once again, had 10 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. And he had one catch for 12 yards. And actually, over the last 2 weeks, he had four catches for 38 yards. So it's not terrible. He's got some opportunity. He looked good in limited time this year so far in these last 2 games here. He might be a big pickup if you're desperate at running back and you need a fill-in guy for the week here. There's not too many bye weeks. The bye weeks this week are, I believe, the Steelers and Packers in week 6. So he might be a hot commodity that you could end up starting in fantasy this year. And I picked him up in a lot of dynasty leagues this past week, so I'm thrilled about that. So I'm very excited. John, over to you. You have Tank Bigsby as your last number 5 guy. Go for it.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby. I mean, this is just kind of the point of the season and where you're at, where you have to just start looking at handcuffs and high-end handcuffs. And Tank Bigsby to me is probably that guy. Where if anything happened to the starter, Tank Bigsby would walk into a pretty significant role in an offense that I think is good and is improving. So. Yeah, that's just nothing crazy other than like if you have bench space and you need an ad, he's a good stash.
Agreed. Yeah, none of these guys in a general sense are like probably home run hits, but they could end up filling a need for your team at some point during the season, especially with bye weeks and injuries. They all might have some kind of value for a short period of time, but I don't know if any of them are home run hits right now, like a Devon Achane if he stays healthy, or like Jerome Ford situation. Some other options there. Zach Moss might have been dropped in a lot of leagues. I don't know how that's handled that situation, but he probably should be picked up.
Good luck trying to figure that one out.
I don't know. I probably won't start him because I think Jonathan Taylor will have like 20 carries in week 6. But if they continue to evolve Zach Moss, I mean, you have to put him. He has to be on rosters right now. So, but he might have been dropped because of Jonathan Taylor. Again, elite backup should be picked up. Jordan Mason is a big one that I continue to say that he is going to be the new backup for the 49ers at some point. And if Christian McCaffrey goes down, he has elite upside. Justice Hill, I think, will continue to see work in this Ravens offense overall. So, all right, over to the wide receivers here now. John, let me just go through the high percentage guys. Joshua Palmer, JSN has been dropped in a lot of leagues I've seen, and Elijah Moore all over that 40%, but all should probably be rostered at this point. Even JSN and how less productive he's been this year so far, he should still be rostered because I think there's still a season for him at some point, and they're coming off of a bye week, which we know rookies love to do things after bye weeks because the coaches get them more involved. They reevaluate in the bye week and they find ways to get their rookies more involved. And JSN is that type of rookie to do so. So he should be definitely a major pickup right now. But let's get into the wide receivers here, John. So start off at the top here. Who's your number 1 wide receiver pickup this week?
Number 1's Josh Downs. Josh Downs had a nice little run of decent performances. This was his first week of what I would say a solid performance, 6 for 6 with 94. So just under 100 yards, again, going 6 for 6. And the two things that I like that's he's got going for him right now is his role is expanding, and he's clearly now the number 2 wide receiver. And his ADOT, which average depth of target, is going up. So he is, started really as kind of this like slot close to the line of scrimmage guy, is down around 5. His ADOT in the past 2 weeks has been up closer to 9. So, I mean, they're getting him involved deeper downfield on legitimate targets. And I think Josh Downs is a talented wide receiver. And I also, I also think that Michael Pittman's a talented wide receiver. So I think that, when you have a good core like that, and then the whatever tight end they feel like throwing to at the time, but I feel like they have a decent, and then you have Jonathan Taylor back. I mean, this offense could all of a sudden, and we just talked about Gardner Minshew is no slouch. This offense could be pretty good. And so I'll take a piece of that, and I'll take a piece of that in the guy who's operating as the number 2 clearly and is getting targeted in the kind of middle, deep parts of the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that as well, to be honest. There, I think I like him with Gardner Minshew moving forward, as long as Minshew is a starter. When Minshew's been on the field, he has produced for us in fantasy, which is great. So I am excited about Josh Downs moving forward. Decent matchup this week here with the Jaguars. My number 1 is still Quentin Johnson. He got a lot of drops probably into his bye, and especially not overly performing in his first game without Mike Williams. But again, just like JSN, coming off the bye week, you have to get your rookie more involved. You spent a first-round pick on this guy. You got to give him an ample opportunity to be successful. They're definitely going to try to find ways to do that this week. The Cowboys will find ways to lock down Keenan Allen, and it will be relied on by Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnson. And I think Quentin Johnson still has that, high-end wide receiver 2 upside, as long as he can start getting the target share in this offense here. So I still have him as my number 1 this week. John, you have him as your number 2 guy this week here.
Yep. Same reasoning. I mean, it's same exact thing. Rookie coming off of the bye week, going to be thrusted into a big opportunity, probably was dropped by frustrated managers. So, I mean, grab him for sure. He's got brighter days coming out of this bye for sure. So I love him.
Agreed. All right, so that was your number 2. My number 2 here was Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel has been so underrated this year, and I think people are starting to catch on, which they should have last week here, as I mentioned him, as he should have been a pickup. He's seeing a great target share this season. I mean, he was seeing 5, 3, 4, 8, and I said pick him up. And what did he do? He put up six receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown, and he has been thriving the last few weeks here, and he's playing much better than what we're seeing from Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin this season here. And he looks like he seems to be in sync the last 2 weeks, 15 targets between him and Sam Howell here. Yeah, I'm going to continue to ride that hot hand here. And he should be a pickup right now in fantasy, because you know what? Terry McLaurin's good, but he's not a elite player that can't have somebody else succeed. And Jahan Dotson just hasn't shown it again this year after a decent last year. So give me Curtis Samuel, who's playing at a high level right now. So,
yeah, he's on my list too. I like him. He's always been sort of a gadget player, but that's okay. When you're in an Eric Bieniemy offense and they know how to use the gadget, that's fine. So clearly they are figuring out how to use that gadget, and he's getting utilization. So I like him. He's a good pickup, and he's people talk about like, oh, is he flex? This, and like, I would start him before I started Jahan Dotson at this point, and people drafted Jahan Dotson. So that's how I feel about Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, no, definitely. You had Michael Wilson as your number 3, if you want to go into that detail.
Yeah, so Michael Wilson had a bit of a down game this week, but I think 2 things going forward. One, the loss of the running game is going to be more prevalent if they miss time with James Conner, so they'll have to throw more. And B, he again has sort of established himself in the first 4 weeks as a rookie to be the number 2 target on this offense. And so Josh Dobbs is playing adequately. He's playing well enough. You can start you can start Zach Ertz every week. You can start Hollywood Brown every week. And I think you're getting to the point where you could take a stab at Michael Wilson week in, week out. So I think he's good. He's getting targeted downfield. He's a touchdown guy. He's big bodied. And you hope that you get Kyler Murray back in the next couple weeks and things get even better. So I think he's absolutely worth the pickup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had him on my list last week. I think he's still a decent pickup that you should pick up. Definitely sucks that he only saw 2 targets. He only saw 1 game over 5 targets so far this season. I really thought momentum was kicking with him in a good matchup when he had 7 last week, but 2 targets. He's still a good play though. But
the one thing that's nice about Michael Wilson, he is not getting a ton of targets, but his air yards are he's over 25% of the team's air yards. So he makes up a lot. So even when he hits, it makes up a lot quick. You're like, all right, it was 45-yard bomb. Like, thanks. I'm good. Michael Wilson doesn't need to do a lot. He can get it done with a few catches.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, John, you had Jameson Williams as your 4th guy as well, and so did I. So I'll let you talk about that because my 5th guy is different than yours.
So Jameson Williams is, I'm sure everyone and their mother talks about it. He's just an explosive kind of stash play right now. The problem is I think that this Lions team is really good. So I don't know if they can run the ball well with David Montgomery. Khalif Raymond's a decent deep threat option as well. You're going to get Amon-Ra St. Brown back. Sam Laporta looks legit. So I think this one is just more of a dart throw, no pun intended, than people want to admit. But Jameson Williams is just very talented, very fast, and on a good team. And believe it or not, I think the Lions are a very good offense. So he's worth a bench stash. He is going to be, I think the problem with fantasy is you got to be, temper your expectations. He's going to be a very frustrating piece to have on your roster. There will be weeks where he's in your lineup and he goes 1 for 18 like he did this past week. There will also be weeks where he's in your lineup and he goes, 3 for 112 and 2. And you're like, all right, well, I think that's just kind of be who Jameson Williams is. And so you just got to kind of get lucky and hope you hit the big ones. He's obviously, if he's out there, he's worth the ad. Because again, there's not many guys at this point, if you're still hanging on to like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm dropping him for a Jameson Williams any day of the week. Like at this point, you got to kind of figure out what you got. And I think Jameson Williams at least offers some upside somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He definitely does here. And he might have cheated on this one. He might be over the 40%.
Mark, sorry, everybody.
I did that too. I kind of rushed my last 2 rankings here. So Kyle said, well, on the bright side for Jameson Williams truthers, he just doubled his career catch total. He did. He has 2 now. Kyle. He has 3 altogether.
Kyle's the best.
But I definitely cheated on this one too. I probably shouldn't have put Williams in. That's my fault. But again, he might be out there for you. He definitely another explosive player that needs to be added, especially with Amon St. Brown banged up. We don't know how long, if that's going to continue. So might give Jameson Williams more opportunity. My last one here for wide receivers, guys, is Ricci Rice for the Kansas City Chiefs here. And he continues to impress. He's not doing a lot, but he's continuing to impress on what he's able to do. He's got 5 targets in 4 or 5 games this year. He's got, decent yardage, not a lot, but decent. He caught his 2nd touchdown of the season here. And the coaches just said, we need to get this guy more involved here. Sky Moore's not doing anything. Kadarius Toney is catching little dink and dunk routes that aren't doing anything here. MVS is just the guy. Like Ricci Rice needs to get the ball more. He's one of the few big receivers on the team here. When Travis Kelce banged up, this man needs to get on the field more and be able to do things for this team here. And I'm picking up now because if you pick him up the week he breaks out, he is not going to be available to you. So pick him up now while you can on your team. Some other options: Josh Reynolds, Trenton Irvin, if T Higgins missed more time. He had 10 targets, 8 catches for like 80 yards. So that was interesting. Rondale Moore could be interesting in more terms of a rushing role, kind of what Deebo Samuel does. He did see an intake in his carries late in that game once James Conner went down. So that could be interesting. KJ Osborne with Justin Jefferson banged up. It might be his time to come up and be the number 2 for this team. Jaden Reed, we'll find out tonight how well he does with the full allotment of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Marvin Mims is still someone I'm hoping for. Jonathan Mingo. Some of these young rookies I really want to start picking up because second half of the season, some of these rookies start producing for us. And Kendrick Bourne could be interesting if Juju and Demario Douglas are to miss time. He might see more work in the offense here. So a lot of decent wide receiver pickups you can make in this week's waiver wire. So
I would agree. It's actually a pretty decent waiver wire week. Well,
better than last week, I think.
Yeah, better than last week. Yeah, it's a decent waiver wire week.
No, it's better than week 3. I think week 3 was the one that was really shitty. Week 4 was okay, but week 3 was, I think, the worst. So I think that was the oh, maybe that was the Von A-Chain one. I don't remember. It was something. Maybe it was 4. It was bad. 4 was pretty bad. So let's go to the tight ends here. John, well, let's start with you. You have Logan Thomas. I have Logan Thomas. I'll let you talk about Logan Thomas.
I mean, anyone who watched the game, I think, understands Logan Thomas is becoming a sort of outlet valve when a play breaks down. And the play is breaking down often. So he's getting a lot of targets. Saw 11 this past week. He clearly looks healthy again. I like Logan Thomas. He's again, one of those tight ends that's just kind of solid all around. Will never really get the credit he deserves, but again, at tight ends, you're looking for guys who are going to A, get volume, and B, get touchdowns. And I think Logan Thomas, week in, week out, will be a good bet for over 5 targets, and probably he'll at least get 1 red zone target, if not 2, and you hope he comes down with it, and then you have a touchdown. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're watching a lot of high-end tight ends kind of fail us. And the truth is, if you're not Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews or, some of these superstars, you probably stink. And so you got to make moves. Like I pivoted from Kyle Pitts to Logan Thomas this week, and I don't regret it at all.
I respect it. Yeah. Someone wanted me to make a trade for Darren Waller. I'm like, to be honest, I have Logan Thomas. It's fine. He's doing fine.
I'm fine. It's the same guy. It's the same guy. One just doesn't have
both 31-year-old running tight ends that are injury prone. Like, give me the one that's at least getting targeted a ton each and every single week, no matter what. And Logan Thomas had 4 red zone targets this past week, so he's
crazy. Yeah, this week was wild. This week was definitely wild.
Definitely a little wild, but he's being used in the offense here. I'm going to continue to have him as my top guy for a while. My number 2 guy was Tyler Conklin, and Tyler Conklin is getting work in this offense here. 50 yards in 3 of the last 4 games now. They play Philly, who are one of the worst teams in against tight ends this year, and it doesn't seem like Zach Wilson knows how to throw to anyone really. So he's doing enough with Tyler Conklin here. So it is a streaming tight end for the week. Maybe Luke Musgrave, who is on a bye this week, Jonathan. Maybe you had him starting, or if you're starting, you need a replacement for Pat Freiermuth that you couldn't find last week. Tyler Conklin can do it for you. So I like him as my tight end 2 backup.
Yeah. So not realizing Luke Musgrave was on a bye this week, it was kind of a snafu.
Still a good idea.
Kind of a snafu on my end, but zig when they zag, as they say. I think but honestly, he is worth the pickup because he to me is Sam Laporta right now without the touchdowns. Like if the touchdowns were going his way, he'd be just as good as Sam Laporta. Like they both just look amazing. They're both very strong in their offense. They're both getting targeted. They're creating plays for them. I think the future is bright for both of these players. Sam Laporta right now is just getting the touchdowns. And so he looks like a way bigger superstar, but really Musgrave, if you watch the games, watch how he's being utilized, he looks just as good. So, I'd be willing to grab him, stash him. I'd stash him through the bye week. That's why he's on this list. So he's good, but he is a good pickup though. He is a good pickup if he's out there.
Absolutely. No, he is definitely worth a pickup still, even on a bye week. So you always need a bye week complete. I always say, guys, if you have an extra roster spot, take a look at the following week, see what you could get in advance. And if Luke Musgrave has a good matchup, or any player in general sense has a good matchup, go pick them up on now. Why wait a week while they're on their bye? So you can use your bye week players to your advantage for sure in this league, in fantasy. And then last but not least, other options, Jono Smith. Jono Smith has impressed over the last month now. And I'm going to, the last 4 games, at least not month, but last 4 games, he's definitely still worth a tight end pickup this week for us in fantasy. So again, a better waiver wire, I'd say out of 5, it's like a 3.5. It's a decent one. It's definitely above average. I think there's some players that can help you win through your bye weeks. I don't know if there's any true breakout potential. A couple, maybe the young rookie wide receivers.
Rookie wide receivers for sure. I would say that's my advice this week is focus on your rookie wide receivers this week. Try and get at least 2 on your roster that you hope get a second half push. Rashee Rice is a great one. Downs is a good one. Mims is a good one. Some of these guys that haven't quite popped off yet, but they easily could.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're going to wrap things up here, guys. A little tired today. It's been a long day today so far, but I had to make sure we got on and give you guys some great waiver wire advice. And as always, guys, we appreciate it. John, anything you want to mention?
No, I got nothing. I want to mention. Go get them. If you're 1-4 like I am, don't lose faith. We can all battle back. We'll all get through this. Fantasy football is a long season and it's a lot of fun. So no, that's it. That's all I got.
Absolutely. And Kyle, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my friend, great job. Love
Thanks,
that.
Kyle.
Thank you. We always appreciate it. And again, everyone else who had listened in, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel at The Fantasy Coaches, or whether you're listening live afterwards on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we greatly appreciate it. We love doing this every week, every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 to 6:30, basically an hour-long podcast. Most weeks, today's a little shorter today, which is okay. But we love doing this. We'll be back on Thursday talking start and sits for week 6. Hopefully you enjoyed the rest of your week 5. Just note, by the time you listen to this, Aaron Jones is not playing tonight, probably. I think it's already been announced. Yes. So if you lost this week because Aaron Jones didn't play, let us know on Thursday. So we thank you guys all for listening. Tune in until next time, guys, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of